Ladies and gents, put your hands together for Neil O'Brien.
Good evening. How are we? It was a Sunday night in spring 1999. I was watching my favourite programme at the television then, which would have been ER on a Sunday night. Angela said, "There's a guy on the phone for you." He said his name is Paul. He said, "You don't know him, but he wants to talk to you. You know, did you tell him I was here?" "Yeah, right, okay." So I picked up the phone and I said, hey, he said, "Hi, my name is Paul. You don't know me, but I have something to ask you." And I said, "Well, okay, go on." He said, "I run a Gaelic football team, but I was at that golf talk you gave the other night, and I'd love it if you come and give that golf talk to my football team." So I said, "Paul, like, how bad are they? You know, you want to try golf psychology with a football team? Like, you're really desperate?" No, he said, "Hold on a second." He said, Firstly, well, they nearly all play golf too, so that's the first thing. He said, secondly, he said, there's a couple of things in that you mentioned that are a few nuggets for them that I think they need to hear." And he said, "Look, we can turn it into a football kind of talk. You know, I can do that another time if I have to." I said, "Paul, look, you know, if you don't mind," see, I could feel the tug of the comfort zone. I said, "Paul, I've only ever worked with golfers, so, you know, I'd rather not. So thanks anyway. You know." And I said, "Hold on," he said, "if you could help me even find 3% in the tank with these guys, we're going to win everything. We're onto something special. That's all we're looking for." So I was waning now and the ads were on, you know, so I said, "Right, okay." So I said, "Well, who are they then?" So he mentioned a senior Dublin club GAA team. He's now given me my out because I know nothing about GAA. So I said, "Paul, I can't name 4 players, right? I haven't even at Neil Diamond in Croke Park. Like you've no idea how bad I would be for this. If you don't mind, honestly, if you don't mind, I'd rather not. Look, I tell you what, I'll try and think of somebody. I won't leave you high and dry. I'll try and get somebody, you know, I'll come up with a name for you." And just as I was hanging up, just before I hung up, I was down the phone, he mentioned what they could pay. And the GAA are loaded. So I suddenly forgot about the comfort zone and got all gracious and, "Oh, look, go on then. Go on, you've twisted my arm, that's fine. You know, cash flow is king after all." So I said, "Fine, okay, look, we'll do it." I said, "What's the plan?" He said, "The following Tuesday week after training, or at least we'll give them a short training session. Could you come then and do an hour of what you did the other night?" He said, that would be brilliant. So I said, "Well, okay, that's fine." I hung up on him then and went back to ER then. And I noticed when ER was over, I was already at kind of, let's call it introductory panic had set in, you know, at 10:30. But that was okay. I said, I'll ring a couple of mates, I'll get a couple of GAA stories during the week, and I'd be grand. But then as the week wore on, and we're all busy these days, I didn't meet any of the mates, I didn't get any stories. So like later on that week, I was kind of at junior panic levels, heading towards minor level. And then the following week it's under 21. So then we'd arranged that what he would do is he would come and collect me from my house and bring me there. So we could have a bit of a chat in the car beforehand. But even more importantly, he wanted then for a post-mortem afterwards on the way home. So I could give him some sense of what I thought. So when he arrived outside my house that Tuesday night, I was now at inspired panic levels. I think I was on my 3rd shirt by the time he arrived, and I was putting my flip chart of markers into the back of his car, and that's when he said, "There's something you should know." Exactly. And I went, "Go on." He said, "With a fellow like you last year," and he was crap. "All right, okay." I said, "Well, that's really good to know, you know." And he said, "No, I'm just telling you in case it comes up." And I said, "Well, how might it come up?" And he said, "No, you'll be grand." We got into his car outside my house and we drove 2.1 miles. They've never let me forget this. To me, I wasn't into the sport, so it was just grass with railings around it. But we drove to the Moby Road in Glasnevin, headquarters of Na Fianna Gaelic Football and Hurling Club. And the Paul I'm talking about is Paul Pillar Caffrey, who'd just taken over the team that year. On the car on the way, we just won the first round of the county championship. The last time we got to the final was 84, but we lost it. The last time we won the county championship was 79. But we're on to something with this team this year. So we've just won the first round. I said, "Pillar, that's enough. I'm not really interested, so that's fine. You know, that's all I need to know, really." we arrived at Na Fianna then, and they were out doing whatever Gaelic footballers do. I had no idea. So I was then put into a little Montessori they have attached. So I was in there on my own, right? That's the level I was dealing with. And there were about 30 chairs in front of me, so I was kind of doing my stress management then while they were out. So I said, this will be okay, I'm grand, it's fine. We're okay, So I was just getting myself together when they arrived. 35 of them. Value for money, lads. GAA, after all. So 35 of them arrived, but they all stood down the back. I'm up here with all the chairs, and they all stood down the back. And they sent me raw, open hostility from the back of the room. So I lost it. I started editing. I looked at my script and looked at them and went, I don't think I'll mention that emotional stuff. I don't think, no, I'm going to drop that. I was down to one little 5-minute thing about the Olympics, you know. I'm supposed to speak for an hour. And a deceased footballer, sent me the following bit of wisdom. The first bit of wisdom was, look at you. You're always telling other people to get out of their comfort zone. Look at the state of you. Come on, like, give it a lot. You've nothing to lose. You're getting well paid. If you never do another GA thing again, it's fine. And, he said, best form of defence is attack. So you've nothing to lose, so go for them. So I did. So I went, lads, can you come forward and keep an eye on the time? I want to get started, thanks. I just scared myself, right? they kind of went, what? So, right, okay. So the back row filled first. Anyway, they decided they'd sit down, so the back row filled first. You know the usual, then the next row. But two guys, though, walked all the way up the room to the two chairs right in front of me, and they did that entire journey without breaking eye contact with me. So they kind of walked up the room like this, right? So I was nearly behind my flip chart by the time they arrived. And then he did it. I can admire it now, in a way. But as he was sitting into his chair, he said to his mate, it was perfect, just loud enough for me to hear. As they were sitting down, he said, he even looks like that fucking idiot we had last year. So I went, oh, bloody hell, right, the gloves are off here now. I'd be lucky to get out of here alive. So, okay. So I said, guys, I have a plan. Here's what I want to talk about tonight. I've kind of figured out but actually just based on what I've heard in the car on the way here, I'm going to just deviate from that. I want to ask you 2 questions first. And then we'll see kind of where we go from there. Something Pillar said, I'd just like to start with that if you don't mind. This is my laptop. I said, guys, 2 questions. I've heard you just won the first round of the Dublin County Championship this year. Like, well done. Question number 1 is, what do you want to get from the championship this year? Now, the biggest man I've ever seen in my life stood up in the back of the room. He must have been sitting on about 3 chairs. This giant stood up, and with just pure hatred in his face. I said, what do you want to get? He said, well, we want to win, of course. Now, if you've ever done what I'm doing now, at some point in your life's journey so far, sometimes there is a moment when you stand up and you've just started, and you realize you haven't maybe prepared well enough. Or it wasn't quite what you were told it was going to be. In that moment, a really interesting thing happens to your voice and your breathing. So I said, what do you want to get from the championship this year? And he said, we want to win. I went, grand. I said, that's fantastic. And I realize I've no oxygen. I'm breathing from my chin up. There's nothing coming in. It's baking hot. I've no water. And unfortunately, I'm sounding like the greatest wimp they've ever met. So I said, great, that's the great word. I said, anybody else? And his twin brother, they could smell blood now. He got out of his 4 chairs, right? And he said, well, we want to be a success. That's great, that's super, thank you. That's fantastic. They're great. Great words. I said, anybody else? And all 35 of them went, no. And I looked at Pillar for just a bit of something, you know, and Pillar was... So at no voice, being the trooper that I am, I carried on. Question number 2. is what you expect to get from the championship. Now, the first fella this time didn't stand up, and he said, a good run in the competition. And I said, anybody else? And his brother maybe felt he should help him out. He said that we're going to do a high finish in the competition. Now, I wasn't really trying to set a trap for them. I'm just interested in the difference between those two questions, you see. But they have revealed themselves to me now. So the best form of defense is attack. I said, you've changed your answer. I said, in my humble opinion, you guys require major mental surgery. I'm not sure if I have the time for this. This turns out to be a much bigger job than I thought. Because, lads, you've changed your answer. I said there are 18 or 16 teams left in the competition tonight. All 16 teams will give me those words on this side of the page. But generally speaking, out of 16 teams, there's only about 2 teams who will give you those words on both sides of the page without hesitation. And you're going to have to beat them. Because I said, lads, there's one thing I've learned so far in life, business and sport, it is that you never get what you want. That's just an ego trip. You only ever take anything as far as you expect to take it. It turned ugly at this point. They had a row with Pillar like I wasn't there. You know, they spoke, where'd you get this rocket scientist from? Right. So I carried on. I did my plan. I apologized to them. They sat with faces on them all night. That was it. Nobody said anything for an hour. They just sat with face. I got into the car with Pillar and we drove all that, and I just apologized to him all the way. I said, Pillar, look, this is what I do. I'm telling you now. That did not go well. You know, I'm telling you now. Please take it from me. So sorry about that. What do you mean? No, that's brilliant. That's exactly what they needed. Loved it. The following Sunday they went out and they won. The following month they did another match. I was wheeled in again. Off we went again. And the following Sunday they went out and they won. The following Sunday they won again. I then found myself sitting on the side of a pitch watching a sport I have no interest in. Freezing cold. We got to the Dublin County final that year, and we were leading by a point with 3 minutes to go in a packed Parnell Park. And with 3 minutes to go, they ran out of expectation, because in 2 minutes to go, the team we were playing, who rarely run out of expectation, are Kilmacud Crokes, and they scored a goal with 2 minutes to go. So the whole thing was over before we knew where we were. Angela and I were invited to the club that night. They were doing a party anyway, win, lose, or draw, so that was fine. I noticed nobody was crying into their pint. I noticed that. I noticed that they kind of seemed to be already coming around a bit, so the resilience and recovery was already starting. The following year I was invited back, and we won the Dublin County Championship the following year, beating Kilmacud Crokes on the way. We won it for 3 years in a row. I have 35 great mates now. Desi Farrell got made then captain of Dublin in the Tommy Carr year, and I was asked, Desi recommended it, and I ended up working with the Dubs for a couple of years then, so that's actually what happened to them. Unfortunately, I worked them. So that's my prediction for you in the next 12 months. And that is that you will have exactly the amount of success and happiness and love and health and fitness that you expect to have. You won't ever get what you want to have. So the remedy is quite simple, but it seems to be difficult for Irish people. And that is step one in this story this evening really is, I think it's really important that you and I and our kids expect to be a success. That's the first thing, is we should expect to be it. Let's not be afraid to talk about that. Expect to be a success, and then let's match our standards and our behavior to people who expect to be successful. And if you manage that, you will prevail. This is like a natural law that works whether you like it or not. 100% expectation. The subconscious part of your brain loves positive expectation. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.